Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where you would notice at the weekend that Gran Turismo 7 gave us the GT World Series back, and it was the Nations Cup. Now this race gave us a lot of thinking to do. It was a long race, 24 laps around Spa, but it also does make you wonder, why do we not have long races like this in the daily races? You've got daily race A, B and C, but a daily race D, that would be incredible, especially after what we witnessed at Spa over the weekend. Now before we get into it, do feel free to hit the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought of these races, and do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But the first thing with the GT World Series is you're going to have to do qualifying, and at Spa we had 6 minutes. Now once we get out on track, you've got to do your first lap, and this is my first proper lap, getting to the end, and we're going to go over the finish line into P2 with a decent-ish time, a 2:19.326, but that just wasn't quick enough, and I knew I had to go quicker because by this point I was going purple and I was P8, and that was actually looking quite good, but we did have traffic, and this is one thing that it did annoy me a little bit because I just did not time it right. I ended up behind the guy who's currently P13, and I knew I needed to get a faster lap time than I did before, but I just stuck behind someone who definitely wasn't as quick, at least in the first lap anyway. But as we go into this corner here, I've gone a little bit wide, and as I've gone wide, that was my qualifying session over and done with. Spun out, and at the moment we were P8, but we're not going to start there, and we'll see to it when we come and look at the grid. Now we get the final, and that's of round 1, and we got Beggars Monson in P1, Strobel in P2. Now this guy you will notice at the end, Super Chorus in P3. In P4 we got Rocky Martillo, they're also in the Supra. Make Way in P5. In P6 is King GT, GTIRN. P7 Hazard 06, who will have quite a bit of action with. Methotrexat in P8. P9 is Speedline. And here we are, P10, that's where we've ended up. Not the great starting position, just in front of Crisby, who is also going to be featuring quite a bit. Friesen Express is P12. P30 is Marky Mark, who you will also see quite a bit of. And Gao Louis in P14. There was only 14 cars in this race, but these guys that were starting behind me and just ahead made for some really incredible racing. Now, fuel wasn't really the issue in this race, the tyres were the key thing, but I hadn't had any practice at all really. I'd done a few laps. Rory opened up a lobby just before this, and I managed to get a few laps in, but I had no idea of what strategy was going to be, so we've gone in a little bit blind, and I decided to go with the racing hard tyres just because even though I didn't know what to expect, I would have preferred to just have a tyre that I knew would last a little bit longer. So that was just my little strategical call. And as we're going into lap 1, we're sitting in here behind the French Methotrexat. I completely butchered that. And Speedline just up ahead the Italian. But as we've gone over into Eau Rouge, we're going to sit right in behind, and we're going to get into that slipstream. Going over into the end of the Kemmel Straight, we're going to try and hit the brakes really hard and try and outbrake them. This is the long way around. It's round the outside, not always the best place. But look, we had the position, and they let off the brakes. I've looked at the replay. I don't have it in this race, but they hit the brakes, got off the brakes, and then got back on again and squeezed us out. So that's a bit of a naughty move, but we'll let it be just because it was early in the race. But as you can see here, in the lap 1, someone's gone off and been reset. So we gained a couple of positions because someone else there has actually also spun round and moved us back up into P8. So we're getting 2 positions in the first lap. That's not a bad start. And as we go into turn 1, we're going to make the move on the French driver here. Also in the Nismo 18. They've gone wide, and we've managed to get another position. So we're up to P7 at the start of lap 2. But Crisby here is right hot on our tails. And as we go up the hill into Eau Rouge, we're going to actually hold out, are we? Yep, we are, and we're going to keep that position. So not a bad start. Into the end of lap 2, we've managed to catch up with Hazard, who's also a really quick driver, and it's given us 3 cars virtually on the same piece of track. Now Hazard's made a mistake here. They've gone a little bit wide, and we've managed to sneak through, and to be fair, all credit to Hazard there. They saw that we were there and actually took avoidant action. So the racing in this was absolutely phenomenal. Cannot fault it enough. There was sportsmanship. As we go into lap 3, we're currently in P6, so we're still there with Hazard and Crisby, and as you can see, we're still together. It is literally that close. But what I knew is that Hazard was a lot quicker than me, so the conundrum here was, do I waste time fighting Hazard, or do I just let them by? So I opened the door, I let them through into P6, and we dropped to P7, but I also had to be wary of Crisby just behind, because I knew they were decent, they're pretty quick, and I didn't want to lose a lot of time in the race. But as we got into here, I've gone a little bit wide, and I've had to back out a little bit. I've had to get off the throttle just to get the car back in without getting the penalty, but it does mean that we lost a position to Crisby and we're back down into P8. But that's not a problem because we're still in lap 3 of 24, and as you get further into end of lap 3, Crisby's then made a mistake. But look at this, they're not trying to push us out wide. We've got in the slipstream, we're going to take the position, and this is absolutely brilliant racing. All credit to these guys here, and we're now up into P7, but there's also someone's gone a bit wide, and it's Super Chorus, the Italian, has gone wide, and I wasn't a little bit happy here because I felt like they didn't really get a penalty. There should have been a bit of a penalty there, but maybe that's me, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but we've got a race on our hands now. So now we've got 4 or 5 cars battling for P6 effectively, and as we go up the hill, we're going to try and sit into Super Chorus's slipstream, and in this moment here, I wasn't very happy with. Now, I thought they were going to give me a little bit more space. I thought they would have realised I was there. They didn't, and we kind of just got bogged down behind them. So not overly happy, but by the end of the straight, we're side by side going into the turn, but they've managed to gain that position, and I've just decided again I just need to sort of back out and just maintain position. But I've also got to be wary because look at that, Crisby and Marky Mark are right hot on our tails here, and trying to come for us. So the racing absolutely incredible. But look at that behind, look at the radar, they're right on our tails, and as I've gone into this turn, I've made another mistake, which bogged me down a bit, and it's given Crisby the opportunity to go side by side, and again I've had to back out, and it's becoming a bit of a repetitive thing where I'm having to back out and lose position after position through silly mistakes that I didn't really need to do. But the main thing is that I'm still in the race, and then Crisby's also gone wide. But look at that, did you notice that he's just actually backed out slightly and given us enough room to actually race, which has allowed us to actually get in. But here they've got touched by someone, and RIP to Crisby, they've gone into kitty litter after contact with Marky Mark. I don't think that was intentional. I think that was just the situation that's caused that incident. But lap 4, Marky Mark's gone a little bit deep, give us a little nudge, but no harm done. We've managed to survive, and as we go into lap 5, we can see there's 2 cars coming behind, and the main thing is to try and get a good exit, but I didn't get a very good exit. I've kind of almost lost the rear of the car, had to get off the throttle, and again I've lost to another position. We've got Galui here, who's trying to get into that position there as well, but as we go in, we've managed to just get the good run on Galui and at least hold on to P8. So we could have effectively been 2-3 positions up ahead, but at this point I was also thinking, are they even on the same tyres as me, and am I actually over racing? At this point I've gone very wide at the first part of the of our Rouge. I knew I was going to get a penalty, so I was like, do you know what, just straight on and get the penalty, make sure I just got ahead. But it didn't last long because Marky Mark decided that they wanted to overtake us. They got a bit naughty, a bit risky, but I think in all it was probably an okayish move, no real harm done. At this point here we're fighting with Galui, and we're side by side, and he's also squeezed through, so it's not looking great for us at this point. At this point I was thinking, I've got a penalty, I'm losing loads of positions, and it's not really working out. But by lap 9 we still maintained P9, so we didn't really lose anything with the penalty other than a bit of time to go in front. Didn't lose any more positions, but lap 9 the pit stops are starting to happen, and Galouis has gone into the pits. They were on the medium tyre, so that's actually not a bad thing for us because we were definitely on the slower tyre. And lap 10 Make Way has gone into the pits, which is also one thing that really you'll find that how when I get into my pit stop, they've actually managed to overtake me, but it doesn't really matter because all these people were on the medium tyres, and that put a smile on my face. But these guys here, Strobel and Super Chorus, they were on the hard tyres, and at lap 14 I decided I need to go in myself, need to go into the pits, because if I stayed out, I mean that was definitely game over, because they would have been on the medium tyres, which is quicker, and I would have been on old hard. So it was a no-brainer. I had to go in at this point. I did try and stretch it as much as I could, but once we were in, we had to get the fuel sorted, and this is another mistake that I made. I got too much fuel in the car, so I should have stopped at that little white dot. I didn't, and that's made me lose probably one position, maybe two. And this is kind of where my race kind of a little bit unfolded, because it wasn't until lap 17 that I actually managed to get into a position to overtake Make Way. So we're going into the bus stop here. We tried to get a better run. We've got better entry into the last corner, and we're going to get into the slipstream of Make Way. Now this is where racing, you decide where you're going to hold someone up or you're going to try and focus on your race. And Make Way gave me the flash these indicators, and that was a sign for me to go ahead. And they knew I was on the faster tyre, so there was no point really fighting. And as we go into lap 18, we're right behind Galouis. And you're going to find another common thing here. The racing, this is where racing happens. They realised that, again, I was the quicker car on the quicker tyre, and there was no real point in fighting me because it would just be worse for them. So they flashed their indicators as well, and we're up into P8. So you don't see a lot of this in daily races. I don't know if it's to do with the nations, but all credit to them. Lap 19 we are in P8, but Hazard has decided to rage quit or just quit in general, and that's moved up to P7. Lap 23 we're getting into the race, and I'm thinking, hold on a second, Strobel is stopping again, so they must have done the double mediums. And I'm looking at the radar thinking, am I going to get past them? Have I got enough of a gap to try and pull out ahead? And we do. And as we go into turn 1, just look at the exit of the pits, Strobel is coming out. Now the gap itself is quite considerable, but they were catching at certain points during the lap. But in the lap 24 we had enough in the bank to cross the finish line in P6. So from having no practice really to no idea what the strategy was, to finish in P6 in the Nations Cup is actually pretty decent. And what it did is it gave us 141 points, currently 7th in the local rankings, 102nd in the UK, and 532nd in Europe. But that was an incredible race. I mean, this race took over an hour to do. It was at least an hour and 15 minutes between getting out into qualifying and actually finishing the race, which for Gran Turismo is absolutely fantastic. It's a shame we still only have 14 cars. It would have been nice to have a lot more. But let me know what you think, guys. Did you think it was as good as I thought it was? And are you looking forward to the next round, round 2? But that's been my first round of the GT World Series, and I will see you guys on the next one. Before you go, as always, don't forget, check out these 2 videos, and I'll see you on the next one. Chunky out.